Know yourself in order to communicate well. You might have to speak at a PTA for the local school, or it could be a political rally, or an interchurch committee for disaster relief. In every situation, you have to understand yourself, but never more so than when you have to speak in church. What do you want to be known for? When you can answer that question, you will have discovered truths about yourself which will equip you better as a public speaker. Here's a stony cold truth that makes the beginning preacher uncomfortable. A lot of people do not like the word preach, and even less do they want to be preached at. So starting a preaching course immediately puts you on the back foot. You're going to speak in a context that will turn a lot of people off. You're going to deal with content that will offend some and make no sense to others. But that also happens in many other public speaking contexts. The question is, are you resilient enough to deal with the opposition? The sharing of gospel values is the church's sole reason for its existence. This means finding ways of communicating so that people catch the message without even knowing it. This is a very significant challenge for worship leaders and lay preachers. So do you know yourself well enough to find new ways of gathering the people and telling the story? In other words, are you creative enough at putting the message out there? At the PTA meeting, sharing a program to overcome playground bullying will meet enormous resistance from some people. Adding the gospel into the mix will inflame the situation. Can you put the message across by sharing the gospel values without necessarily mentioning them by name? At the political rally, can you put your message across without entangling the gospel values into this political party or another? Look at the fate of the anti-gun lobby in the US. Adding gospel into that debate won't help, but Lord knows the gospel would do a powerful good in that context. At the interchurch meeting, more likely interfaith meeting in today's global context, can you put the case for Christianity while affirming the values of other religions? None of this is new, of course. It's been around for centuries. How can we preach without preaching at? I read this story decades ago by James S. Stewart. He wrote about a Franciscan tale. It tells how the saint on one occasion invited a young novice to accompany him. They were going on a preaching expedition through the town. They passed through one street after another. Eventually, they returned to their starting point. Not a word had been spoken, not one. I thought we were going to preach. We have preached, replied Francis. People looked at us as we walked. They knew what we were doing. It was thus we preached. There's a lot in the sermon without words. Significant silences can be far more eloquent than the torrent of words which flow out of the pulpit. John Wesley's friend George Whitefield warned against preaching truths unfelt. Quote, "It will be but poor, dry, sapless stuff. Your people will go away out of church as cold as they came in." Unquote. Wesley himself was concerned lest his own personality got in the way of the basic message he had. What was that message? It was with simplicity and sincerity to offer Christ. So let's put the spotlight on our weaknesses and strengths. As a worship leader, know them. You have to know yourself. Whatever else, learn to be positive and affirming of the congregation or audience. They didn't come for you to project your fears, anxieties, or even anger onto them. Most certainly not. They came in part to be recognized for who they were by God. Your speech needs to affirm that. In the same way, if you know yourself, you will surely know that you too need some praise and recognition. What worship leader doesn't have a desire to be popular or well-liked? There's nothing wrong with that desire except when it gets in the way of communicating gospel values. So remember that preaching isn't primarily about yourself, but rather as a proclamation about Jesus and the values inherent in the gospel. Here's the takeaway for today. There's no perfect 10 out of 10 score for worship leading and preaching. But there's great satisfaction in helping others to see more clearly the gospel. So have you prepared prayerfully for this and indeed every worship occasion? Cultivate an inner spiritual life. It'll show. Have you tried to understand how your message might be heard, might be received? It'll show. Do you feel in your heart for the message you want to share? It'll show. Quote, resist all temptations to dilute the gospel, unquote, noted James Stewart. All of which leads to one inescapable conclusion. Self-knowledge leads to pulpit wisdom. Thanks for watching.